Hey guys, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my May reading wrap-up. I know it's a little late. It's almost the end of June when you're going to be seeing this, when I'm filming this. This month has been very weird. And I'm behind on a lot of things, including filming videos. So I kept putting this off, and then it got to near the end of June, and I didn't want to have to combine the May reading wrap-up with the June reading wrap-up, so we're just doing it now. So yeah, apologize that it's so close to the end of the month, but here we are. There's really not much I could do about it. I mean, just mentally wise, there was just not much I could do about it. So I have a lot of books to talk about today. Lots of books for different readathons that I did. Pretty much only 2, but you know, whatever. So yeah, that would be Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, which I've actually been keeping up with all year, surprisingly enough. And then I participated in Book Lover Amanda's Southern Charm Readathon. I did a vlog on that one, which I will link down in the description in case you guys missed it. I really did mean to do a second vlog on that one, but then I read books that like weren't very interesting to film about, and then I think that's partially when my mental derailment with videoing came around, so I ended up not doing a second vlog, so I apologize for that, but I will be doing more vlogs in the future. I'm going to start with the first book I read, and that is Between Shifts by W.R. Gangle. This is a urban fantasy kind of mystery, not really a mystery, but it kind of has murder mystery vibes to it. This is the second book in the City Between series, and in this book we kind of jump in and we jump in with Pet and the vampire, who is Ji Young, I believe is how you say his name. He's Korean, so I really don't know how to say it, but they find a body under the garbage bins out back behind the supermarket, and so they start investigating. And there's not much more I can say to that because this is definitely continuing on from the first book. This is definitely a series you need to read in order and pretty close together, I would assume, because the way this book ended, I still haven't read the third book yet, but I don't want to let too much time sit in between because it kind of ends on a cliffhanger in this one. It doesn't really end on a cliffhanger in the first book, which is Between Jobs. But yeah, there's not really too much I can say about this. I will say there's werewolves introduced in this. They're not really called werewolves. They're called shifters, but it's basically a werewolf. But yeah, and there's a bunch of other things happening and stuff like that. His author's writing style is definitely one that I have to get into every time I pick up one of her books, because it's very different from what I usually read, but I do really enjoy it. Pet is slightly insane, I think. She has like sass and sarcasm for like 5 teenagers, and it's really funny seeing her like banter with these like really dangerous people, and she even thinks a time or two like, should I really be doing this to these like fae or this vampire? And it's fine, and it's like, you're one of them's gonna snap one of these days and they're gonna kill you. But you know, so yeah, it's a very interesting series. I'm very invested in it though, so yeah, I will be continuing it at some point, but yeah, there's not much more I can say because, like I said, it's the second book in a series. These do continue right after the other, so especially as I get further in the series, I'm really not going to be able to say much. So yeah, I gave this book 4 stars. This was also one of my picks for the Southern Charm Readathon, and that was for Heavens to Betsy, which is a mystery or a thriller, because this does have kind of thriller mystery vibes sometimes, and they are trying to solve who murdered this person. So it is kind of a mystery, even though it's mostly urban fantasy. The next book I read was a new favorite for me, and that is Engaged to a Supervillain by H.L. Burke. This is the 4th book in the Supervillain Romance Project series, and yeah, in this one we're following Jake and Juliet. They're the main couple in the 3rd book, which is Captured by a Supervillain. But anyways, we're continuing their story in this one, and Jake is still going through a lot of PTSD and trauma from what he went through in the previous book. I can't really say any more than that on what he did because that would be kind of spoilers. But anyways, he's going through that, and he's going to propose to his girlfriend Juliet and hopefully start a life with her, but they kind of get in a situation where they, through a series of circumstances, they end up being expectant parents. Oops. Yeah, and on top of that, Juliet's older brother Sean does not like Jake. He's like, doesn't really like the whole supervillain thing, and he thinks Jake's pulling one over on Juliet and stuff. So yeah, and then there's this group going around who's like killing all these former supervillains of this gang that Jake was attached to. And there's just a bunch of crazy stuff going on. I don't want to say too much more than that because it's a very small book, for one thing. For another, if I say much more, it's going to lead into spoilers for the third book. So if you've never read the third book, it's kind of in spoiler territory, but that's kind of where we're at with this one, and I really like this. Jake has been my favorite character in this series since he was introduced in the this author's young adult series, which is the Supervillain Rescue Project series. I've loved him since the very first book of that one, so continuing his story as he gets older is just such a treat, and I really love it. I really like his relationship with Juliet, and just the whole situation. I will say the accidental pregnancy is handled really well. Like, there's nothing even shown. There's not even a fade to black. It's just like we start in one place in one chapter, and the next place it's like, okay, this happened. And we're just literally told basically that happened. And that's it. Nothing is shown. So I really appreciate how she handled that, and how the author handled the situation between the two characters of how they're trying to approach it with their families. And they're trying to, especially with Sean, because I like Sean. He was the main character in this series for the first two books. And I like Sean. He made me almost hate him in this book. It's really hard to hate him because he's such a nice guy, but also at the same time, it's like he was being a major jerk in this book. And it's like, I can sort of see why, but at the same time, just like, Sean, just chill and think a minute, because it's like, your sister's not dumb. You might think she's infantile, but she's not dumb. She's not going to be just marrying this guy because of reasons. It's just, seriously, just take a chill pill. And he finally did by the end of the book, but my gosh, it took a while. But yeah, so very good characterization on that, because definitely everybody has different viewpoints. I'm really amazed at how the author characterizes all these characters throughout this entire universe, because there's like 4 or 5 different series now in this superhero universe, and everybody acts differently, thinks differently, and reacts differently, you know, like real people. And I just really appreciate that. So yeah, but I really, really liked this one. Lots of intrigue, lots of danger, lots of cute romance stuff. It's just really good. I gave this book 5 stars. I also used this one in the Southern Charm Readathon for Chicken and Dumplings, which was a book. I have to read what it said, the way I wrote it in my journal. A book you think will be a comfort read. So yeah, I think this one I will definitely come back to if I just need a light read, but with some danger, because there's like torture involved. Just don't ask what I think is a comfort read, okay? Because murder or mayhem is probably going to be involved. That's just what I read. Okay. Next book I don't have a physical copy of yet, so I will show the cover here, and that is The Order of Blood and Ruin by K.M. Shea. This is the 3rd and final book on the Magic of Main Street series, which is an urban fantasy series. Basically, in this series, we're following Jade. She is a vampire slayer who is working on the magical, oh no, I always mess up this name. The Magical Task Force Response Team, which is basically like a magical cop team. And she fights crime in the city of Magiford, which is a supernatural city set in the Midwest. And yeah, and she's been tangling with this vampire who calls himself Ruin, and she's doing all these different things. And yeah, I can't say much more than that, because this is the 3rd and final book. Spoilers abound if I say anything more than that, but I really liked this one. I gave this one 5 stars. This is the first 5-star in this trilogy. The other 2 previous books I gave 4.5 stars, but yeah, I really liked this one. I liked the dynamics between the characters. Jade does have social anxiety, and I think that was handled really well. Unfortunately, it does not really help when you're trying to have her connect with different characters, and I really like character dynamics in this author's stories, so sometimes she didn't really have much of the character dynamics because Jade was getting in her own way, so with her social anxiety. So while it was realistic that way, I think that's why I decreased the ratings on the first 2 books, because I really liked that in her books, and we didn't really get a lot of that until this book. So yeah, and then Constantine is our other main character we're following. He's a vampire, and he's got his own issues. I thought he was a total jerk face in the first book. And I said that the author would have to work really hard to convince me he was basically a good love interest, and she did it. She did manage to do it. By this third book, I was totally won over. Prompts to her for that, because I was, like, doubtful at first in the first book. It was like, this one's gonna be really hard to work in because he's acting like a total idiot, but she managed to do it. And yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I buddy read this with my family. We all enjoyed it. And even though the next series is going to be a while, because the author, in case you don't know, the author is taking a 2-year hiatus from writing any of her books due to health reasons. And yeah, and I definitely want her to get better, totally. So I don't really mind that she's doing that. It just will delay the next Magic series for coming out, so we won't see one for another 2 years. But the most important thing is that she gets her health up and running, so I don't mind that a bit. But I just thought I'd let you guys know in case you like KM Shia too, and you may KM Shia's books too, and you maybe just didn't know that. So yeah. I also read The Order of Blood and Ruin for the Southern Return Readathon, and I put it as, bless your heart, an emotional or heartwarming book, because definitely by the end we had emotions flying everywhere. We had lots of heartwarming moments. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book. The next book I read is another H.L. Burke superhero book, and that is Redeemed. This is the second book in the Supervillain Rehabilitation Project series. I don't know much more I can say about this. Basically, Prism and her team take on another supervillain to rehabilitate, and this one's a teenager named Alma, and yeah, they basically take her on because one of Prism's teammates basically stops her in a robbery attempt, and she feels really bad because she didn't know it was a kid that she was punching. So she convinces Prism to take her on, and Prism and Fade, who is her boyfriend, they're also kind of going through some things, and there's just a whole bunch of different things going on. Can't say much more than that because this is the second book in a continuous series that you do need to read in order. So yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. This is the lowest rating of a book that I've given in this series, in this universe. I had some issues with this book. For one, there is a kind of alluded to, how do you word this? There was alluded to marital stuff in the very last chapter, which is, what is it, chapter 39 or something like that? Yeah, no, chapter 28. Okay, that's the last chapter. But yeah, so there was some of that, and some of the topics around that, and kind of got a little intense sometimes. Depends on how it's written, but yeah, this one did make me a little uncomfortable in that area, just a bit, especially that last chapter, but nothing's ever explicitly shown or detailed. I mentioned more about this in my reading vlog, so refer to that. So I'm going to have you guys refer to that if you want to know more thoughts on this. The author left a really sweet comment on that video of just mentioning why she wrote it this way, so I really appreciate that she took the time out to talk about that and actually saw my video on this, on her book. But yeah, she wanted to write like marital relations and type stuff that was clean but showed a healthy relationship in that area, and I highly respect that. But if for some people, I just know the sexual type content is a little depending on sensitivity levels for people, and this one just kind of pushed it a little bit for me personally. But yeah, I would still call it clean because nothing's shown, and it's a very healthy type relationship. So yeah, there is that. I also just felt there were a few things with the plot that felt a little wonky, and the ending, the like climax point when a character kind of just got a power up, but it didn't feel explained. And then we never got an explanation afterwards of why this character suddenly got this power up that wasn't there before. And I don't know if that's ever going to be addressed again in any of the other like series or anything, because this character's not an essential character. So I don't know, that was odd. I felt kind of just like thrown in there. Not really thrown in there, so to speak. It was too easy. Because literally, if this character hadn't gotten a power up, they were all gonna die, basically. So yeah, I had a few issues with it, but I still overall enjoyed the book. I just had a few technical issues with it. So yeah, so just yeah, bear that in mind if you go into this with that. And I will also have my Goodreads review linked for this book in the description if you want to know further content things. All reviews for all these books will be linked in the description. I should have said that at the beginning. I did not, so whatever, you're getting it now. So yeah, I did also read this one for the Southern Chartered Readathon for Hey Y'all, a book with more than one point of view, because we got multiple points of view in this one. So now we're going to get into the kind of more visual media type ones. These are like the comics that I read, comics and manga that I read this month. And yeah, I tried to get into Marvel Comics. I did specify, I think it was in the reading vlog, that I was going to try to get into Marvel Comics. I have since discovered, I'm not sure if I like the mainstream comics, like for more the older type readers and stuff. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but the older type, how do you describe it? I'm not sure the more timeline type comics, the ones that I guess would be for like teens and older, or more like adult or whatever. I'm not sure if I'm gelled with those, mainly because there's so many of them, and you know, from like the 60s on or whenever they started publishing these stories. And yeah, it's very hard to get into. I've definitely learned that, but I found I tend to like the ones that are more just like fun teen dynamics, and they're going on crazy wacky adventures, which seem to be more aimed at like the all ages kids type comics, not like really young, but like I would say like middle grade and up. So anyways, all that to say, I did read a few of them that my library had, and they're all over the spectrum on like ratings. So we're gonna go with roughly the order I read them in. The first one is Medieval Women. Okay, this is the cover that Goodreads gives. This is not the actual cover of the volume I got from my library, though. That's this cover, which, according to Goodreads, belongs to a different volume. Like, a different story entirely, this cover does. So I'm not sure what it's doing on this one. But I like it better than the one that they gave on Goodreads. Like, here's another comparison. Here's the Goodreads one again. Like, that's hideous. And that's in the book. It's like the title page. But yeah, anyways, that's this one. I gave it 2 stars. Mainly because I had fun writing that review of it, because I basically just made a parody of it. It was kind of funny. And it's just, basically the villain gave up. It was so dumb. It's like, basically, you could tell that the characters were trying to like thwart this lady, obviously. That's what they do. But it was so obvious, and she let them do it. Basically, she basically was her own downfall, this villainess. So it was really weird. Anyways, the story is basically, the Avengers discover this computer game is like somehow affecting people's minds and making them think that they're in medieval times, and it's like a power source for this villainess. It's a very strange concept, actually, now that I'm talking about it. It's very weird. But I mean, most of them are. It's the superhero scientific magic sometimes stuff. But anyways, so part of the team goes off to try to find the source of this weird power surge and like get rid of this lady. So yeah, wasn't the greatest. I didn't really care for it. So that much. Then I read High Serpent Society, which is, I gave 3 stars. I enjoyed this one quite a bit more. Basically, there's this group who are using snakes, basically the snake venom, to have it bite people, and they're trying to make a snake cult. That, you know, they're trying to not make snake people, so to speak, but just use the snake venom to like brainwash people or something. It's basically a snake cult. But anyways, so they end up basically poisoning and kidnapping as part of the Avengers, and then the rest of the team has to go and basically fake that they've been venomed by these snakes and get their teammates back and shut down this cult. This one was actually pretty fun, which is why I gave it 3 stars. I really enjoyed the dynamics for the group who were trying to save their friends, because it's like they were trying to pretend that they were under this influence, but like some of them weren't doing a very good job pretending it. Spider-Man especially was like not really doing the greatest job in the world trying to pretend that he was under the influence and stuff. So it was like, yeah, you just had these fun dynamics of these characters. They're trying to convince these cult leaders that they're under the influence, but then they're kind of like trying to like also figure out like, okay, how do we get our friends back? And it was just fun. I just really enjoyed it. It just really highlights sometimes what these dorks are, because the Avengers technically are just a bunch of superpowered dorks. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. And then I read this one, Ego, the Loving Planet. I gave it 2 stars. It's basically I actually don't know what words does YouTube go with? Because I'm not sure, but this planet, this basically sentient planet, is hitting on Earth. Yeah, it's as weird as it sounds. Which is why I gave it 2 stars, mainly because also it's just like, what? So yeah, that one was odd. Mainly because it's like, okay, why are we doing this? But yeah, so the team basically has to convince the sentient planet to not kill everybody on Earth, but because it's like affecting the gravitational pull of Earth by getting closer because he's hitting on Earth. So yeah, they kind of had to convince it to go away. I gave it 2 stars. Didn't care for that one. Okay, so we're just gonna move on then to the next few that I read, which are part of a series, but I read them out of order because I read the first one from the library. That is the Marvel Action Avengers series. The first one I read is technically the 4th one in the series, and that is The Living Nightmare. This one, I really enjoyed this one. Basically, this does follow the plot of the previous 3 volumes, but you can read this one by itself, in my opinion, because I did, and they, like, referenced things that apparently obviously happened in the first 3, but I didn't need that to understand what's going on in here. Basically, Captain America thinks he is basically an agent of AIM, which is one of Marvel Comics' big superhero bad guy group. They wear like beehive outfits. Let me see if I can find a picture of what they look like. I probably can't in this one, but anyways, if you see them, they're wearing like yellow beehive outfits, these guys. They're like a group of scientists or something like that. But yeah, of course I can't find anything now. Yeah, they look like these guys. The group with AIM, they look like beehive people. I don't know. I'm not sure about the outfit, but whatever. But anyway, so Captain America thinks he's basically been kidnapped and brainwashed to think that he's an agent of AIM, and then the Avengers free him from that, the Avengers that are left. But things are not quite what they seem. So yeah. I can't say much more than that. Beyond that, we do know that Captain America is stuck in a nightmare world. Basically, like, he's trapped inside of his own head. But when you first start reading it, you don't know, is this the real world? Or is it not? And I found myself, when I was first reading, I was just as confused as Steve is in the story of, like, what is real, what is not, what's going on. So yeah, I thought it was written very well in that sense, because you don't really know what's going on any more than he does. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Really liked the artwork. I actually read this one twice this month. So yeah, I gave this one 4 stars. Then I went back and read the first one. I had to buy it. So I bought the first one, which is The New Danger. Different art style. I talked about this in something. Might have been a book haul, I forgot. But it looks like melting graffiti. I am not a fan of the artwork of this one. Unfortunately, it's like the artwork for, like, I'm guessing the first 3. I guess this one 3 stars. It mostly focuses on Iron Man, who is, like, my least favorite Avenger, like, ever. But it does have some funny moments of the characters and, like, of the characters interacting with each other. The Avengers are trying to basically get Iron Man back because he basically gets this thing implanted in his neck by AIM that is basically tells him he's an agent of AIM, and he starts fighting the Avengers in his Iron Man suit. And it really does show that if he ever did decide to go evil, he'd be very hard to take down. I mean, he's walking around in a metal suit. I mean, even Thor would probably have problems taking him out. But yeah, I really liked it. It had some good humor moments. The Hulk and Hawkeye aren't in it though, so I'm not sure why they're on this cover. So whatever. But yeah, did enjoy this one. I gave it 3 stars. And then I got the 5th one in the series. This one is not connected to the first 4 at all, so you can read this by itself. That is Off the Clock. This one, you get basically Black Widow tells the Avengers that they need to take a day off because, like, the Avengers are like workaholics and that's all they do is work. So literally they have to take a day off. But when these Avengers try to take a day off, they just can't stop running into trouble. And we get 3 different team-ups of different characters. We have Ant-Man and Thor. They end up going on a, they go antiquing to replace something that Thor broke of Natasha's, and they run into Loki along the way. Then our second story is Captain America goes to a elementary school to teach kids, but he's not the greatest with kids because he's never been around kids, let's be honest. And yeah, and he has to team up with a teenage superhero named Squirrel Girl. Her name is really hard to say. Without running it together. And they end up going against this former supervillain guy who starts shooting glue at them. That was and then the third one is Captain Marvel's just trying to have lunch, but she ends up being roped into helping Doctor Strange try to get his cloak back because his cloak of levitation is been stolen. So by this this person who thinks she's the White Rabbit. So yeah, it's basically, and then all these stories do have crossover characters. Other Avengers show up doing their own crazy things on their supposed day off, and yeah, they all coincide with each other, so it's like all of these things kind of loop together at the end. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was just so much fun of seeing these different characters hanging out and interacting with each other. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Squirrel Girl would drive me nuts though in her own book. She's fine with Cap because he's more serious and stuff, and she's just really light and happy. It kind of reminds me of the one episode in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes where Spider-Man and Captain America end up teaming up, and I really like that dynamic. I think Cap works very well with teenagers because he's just such a solid, steady person, and teenagers are teenagers. So yeah, so I think that dynamic works really well. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4 stars. So much fun. I also did use 2 of these for the Southern Charm Readathon. I used Howdy Partner for The Living Nightmare. That was a book featuring friendship or family because the Avengers are definitely just one big giant goofy family. And Avengers Off the Clock I used for Free Space, which is the reader's choice. And the last comic I read is part of a different series aimed at kids. This is an older one, and that is Marvel Adventures Avengers, and this one is volume 7, Weirder and Wilder. This was the only one my library had. I was trying them out, and this is the only option they had, so I got it. It just has different stories, different little one-shot stories of the Avengers dealing with multiple threats. One of them is for some reason the Avengers all start hating each other. For absolutely no reason they start fighting each other, but then they'll snap out of it, and then they're just what is going on? So basically they go to therapy. I'm trying to figure out why they suddenly hate each other, and it is hilarious. One of the other stories is basically a body swapping thing where they basically switch bodies. I guess it's Freaky Friday. I've heard of that reference before, but anyways, apparently that's a common thing in superhero genres in superhero comics where they often get some sort of scientific thing that switches brains with everybody else. That one was interesting. I didn't really care much for that one. I don't remember all the stories. My favorite though was the one where the Avengers go to the county fair because they're trying to make sure they're friendly with, like, the rural people as well as the city people. But, you know, and it was Captain America's suggestion, but Captain America's not there. So anyways, and in that one, like, Ant-Man's helmet accidentally shrinks the team that went to the county fair to, like, you know, Ant-Man size. So, and then a pig, like, ends up taking the helmet, and they have to, like, chase him through the fair to get the helmet back so they can go back to regular size. And they're all, of course, all, like, 2 inches tall and running around this county fair. And at the same time, we get a viewpoint of Captain America and Iron Man back in the city, and they end up, like, busting phone spammers. phone calling spamming, you know, like telemarketing. They end up busting a group. These sound really weird. I know they sound really weird. I think there's another story too, but I forget what it is. I can't think of what it is. Because there's three or four different stories in each one. There's three. What's the fourth one? I don't know. That's gonna drive me nuts. If I remember what it is, I might stick in a clip of me telling you what it is. If not, I forget. Oh, there was another one. Yeah, they had to. Oh yeah, some big alien guy, Galactus. He tries to come and, or some aliens show up because Galactus is going to eat their planet, and then they kind of, even though they're, like, really rude, they try to, they want the Avengers to help them save their planet. So then they end up, like, doing all these different weird things to try to stall Galactus from killing off this really rude alien planet. And they're, like, playing baseball to, like, save the universe and stuff. It's really, I can see why I kind of forgot that one. That one was all right. The aliens were extremely rude, though. Oh my goodness. Even Captain America was fed up with them. He called them jerks. So that was the first time I ever heard him call somebody a jerk. So I really enjoyed that one. It was just a lot of fun. Even the stories I didn't like as much was still funny. It was like the characters would still just be them, and I just really enjoyed it. And so yeah, I gave that one 4 stars. And the next two are manga that I've read. I'm continuing the Demon Slayer series that I talked about last year sometime, or earlier this year. No, it was last year. Okay, yeah. I managed to get my hands on volumes 4 and 5. I'm now stalled out again because because somebody has volume 6 checked out. There's apparently only one volume each of this series in my library system, and yeah, they still haven't returned it, so who knows when I'll get that one, if ever. Anyways, so volume 4, I gave 3 stars. I can't say much about this series. We pick up where volume 3 left off. Good thing I kind of remembered what happened to volume 3. Yeah, this one I gave 3 stars. Yeah, there was a lot of screaming. I'm not a fan of the newest character. I forget his name. He wears a boar head mask. I just don't care for him. I don't really care for the other guy in the series either. The blonde-haired guy, Zenith, I forget his name. Anyways, I'm pretty much reading this series for Tanjiro because he is such a nice character, and he's brave, and he wants to fight these demons and get rid of them so they can't hurt other people. But at the same time, if these demons, like, act like repentant, he offers them comfort too, and I just like him. And he's basically the only reason I'm still reading this series right now. So yeah, volume 4, we get the new guy, the boarhead guy, and then we go to this mountain where there's issues, and there's, like, also, if you are afraid of spiders, do not read these 2 volumes, because there's apparently these, like, demon creatures living in the mountains that, like, control spiders, and they look kind of spidery themselves. There's even, like, a human head attached to, like, a spider body. It's really disturbing. Even I was just kind of like, really? So yeah, there was that. So I gave Volume 4 3 stars. I gave Volume 5 3.5 stars, basically because, Tanjiro just showed his best self in that volume, which was Volume 5, and I really appreciate whenever that happens. And then this, because at first, one thing, you just think this is kind of like a creepy, crazy very, very screamy, weird series, but at the same time, it also has a lot of depth and emotion showing of like kindness and compassion and good and evil and just like things like that, where it's really hard hitting when it does show up. But yeah, so that is basically why I'm still reading this series, because it has a lot of depth to it. It just also has a lot of rough parts to it too. So yeah, that's all I can really say about those two. Then I reread a couple of childhood favorite books. I reread Bella's Gift and Pepper's Quest, which is books 1 and 8 in the Bella Sara series. In the first one, we follow Jillian. She has been basically imprisoned in this castle to this sorceress lady like her whole life, and she finds out some things that are really not very good. So she tries to escape along with all these magical creatures that have been captured there with her. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of different things. She needs to get the great magical horse Bella's help, and there's all kinds of things going on. I really enjoy this series. I read this book when it first came out long time ago. That makes me sound really old. I think it came out like 2009. Okay, that does make me old. Anyways, I read this when it first came out, and I really enjoyed this. Bella Sara used to be an online horse game, fantasy horse game. I don't think they exist anymore, sadly. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I read this a lot when I was younger. It really encouraged me a ton then. So yeah, it was really fun revisiting it. Book 8, Pepper's Quest, does continue Jillian's story, which is why I read it out of order. And she goes on a different adventure with a horse named Pepper. I can't really say much about this one because it will give spoilers for how the first book ends. So yeah, just know they go together. I would really recommend these for if you have like younger girls especially who like horses and stuff like that. It's a really good series. I think these are actually on Kindle Unlimited. Surprisingly, the paperbacks are no longer in print, but I think you can still get them as ebooks, and I think they're all on Kindle Unlimited. There's 11 books in the series. But yeah, I really enjoyed these. So yeah, enjoyed rereading them. I gave them both 5 stars again. So yeah, really, really like those. Do I talk about this one next? Let's talk about these two next, and then I'll talk about that one. Okay, the next one, which I also read for Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge, for the, I'll look up the prompt in a minute, that is The Kingdom's True Queen by Michaela Bush. This is the 4th book in the Legends of Lanneria series. This is Christian non-magical fantasy, and yeah, in this we go to the kingdom that has been causing so many issues for the first 3 books, which is Norvig, and we follow Asta, I believe, and she is the queen, the evil queen's sister. But she has not had an easy life, and yeah, she's basically under this shroud of abuse that she doesn't really shake because that's all she's ever known. And we also follow Nicholas, who is a Lannerian guard, and he has been sent to Norvig to find the piece of the prophecy that should be there, because basically in this whole series they're looking for pieces of a prophecy that have been ripped up and scattered. So yeah, he is trying to find that, and he comes across Asta, and he wants to save her as well. I can't say too much more about this book. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I also want to say definitely look up triggers for this one, because there is like mental, physical, emotional abuse. There's alluded to sexual abuse. Nothing of that nature is ever shown. Even the other stuff, the physical abuse especially, nothing's really shown. Pretty much just the mental, emotional one, because that's just words. So yeah, you kind of show that through the dialogue and stuff. So, and Asta really has to overcome a lot of that stuff to help out Nicholas and to save herself and stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's a hard book, but which is why I don't think it's as long as, say, the first 2 books in the series. But yeah, I still really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed where she took it. I'm very curious from the epilogue where things are gonna go from here, because it's like things are not going well. So yeah, I'm very curious to see where this goes in the 5th book. So yeah, I highly recommend this series, especially if you like Christian non-magical fantasy and you don't mind some tougher topics. And I also reread another favorite, and that is The Girl Who Could See by Kara Swanson. This is Well, it's kind of a parallel universe with the sci-fi element mixed with contemporary. And in this one, we follow Fern. Fern basically has been labeled crazy because she keeps seeing these weird things from like buildings will just shoot up out of the ground in front of her, or she'll just see things that the people tell her are hallucinations, but it kind of looks like another world. She tries to ignore it, but her biggest one from this is her imaginary friend Tristan. So she keeps being told he's a hallucination, he's a delusion from a really traumatic childhood she had, and Tristan is desperate to get her to listen to him because basically his world was destroyed by this terrible creature, and it has completely destroyed his world, and it's coming for hers. So, yeah, this is a novella, so I can't say too much about it, but basically it's a world-saving plot from this evil space monster who wants to kill everybody on Earth. But Fern has to first listen to Tristan and stop trying to push him away because she thinks he's a hallucination. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff in here that I like. Yeah, just Fern learning to accept herself, the characters, the sweet relationship between Fern and Tristan. I adore this book. I've adored this from the first time I read it. I really, really like it. This cover is also really gorgeous. So yeah, just admire how pretty that is. Sorry, that was bad lighting. But yeah, I really like this. Again, this is like the second or third time I've read. I think it's the third time I've read it. But yeah, I really like this book. Always have, always will, it'll forever remain a favorite to me. I also read this one for the Southern Charm Readathon. I kind of stretched for this one. I put it as Hot as Blue Blazes, a book with a hot setting. It's set in California. It's not specified what time of year it is or if it's really hot, but I fudged. It's always, it was set in LA, so it's like, okay, it's always hot there, so you know. I fudged with that one. And then we have the book I don't want to talk about. Mainly because I don't know how. Okay. That is World Diver by Haley Hansen. I gave this book 3 stars. Okay. Basically in this one, we follow Callie. She's 16, and she's basically being told by like her family and stuff that she needs to grow up and stop just wanting to surf and just hang out with her friend Will and stuff, and just to basically figure out what she wants to do with her life. She doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life. That all changes though when she's out surfing and a storm blows in and she sees this glowing like rod in the ocean. So she jumps down and gets it, but then strange things start happening. Her hands start glowing. She starts reacting to this rod whenever she touches it. And it also turns, it makes her robot project for school come to life. So now her robot Nemo is alive and sentient and rolling around and stuff on his own. And it's from this glowing rod. So, and also she now has this ghost, Nate, who keeps popping up in her life, and he tells her to go talk to his dad, who is like this scientist, and because of the glowing rod, and he keeps popping up in her life, the ghost, not the scientist, but yeah, and it's her basically trying to figure out what this is. Basically, she discovers that she's a light wizard, basically a luminant, hence the Luminant trilogy, and basically she will be either destined to save or destroy the multiverse. But of course she first has to decide whether she actually wants to do this or not. I went into this... Okay, so this is a very interesting combination of genres. It's a very genre mashup, basically, which is why I did it for all the fixins. Prompt for Southern Charm Readathon, which is a book in multiple genres. This basically is sci-fi, fantasy, and contemporary. Unfortunately, I really wish it had focused more on the sci-fi and the fantasy elements, less on the contemporary. Unfortunately, this one, it focuses mostly on that. And a lot of the high school drama that Callie goes through. I had really high hopes for this book. It sounded super cool. I really liked the idea of like a multiverse thing. Nemo, I will say, and World Diver, who is another robot, who is a giant robot. Those two are like the best part of this book, along with Callie and these scientist, Dr. Ormondi's friendship. I really liked them. They had a great friendship. Callie by herself also is a very good character. She has a lot of personality. Her snarky comebacks were really funny to read, even if they were only just in her head. I did like elements. Unfortunately, it had a lot of like the high school drama, the high school problems, like friends liking each other more than one friend wants it, and then like she's crushing on this ghost. Yeah, I didn't care for Nate at all. He's just there, and I don't see the appeal. Besides that, he's supposedly hot, but he's dead. He's a ghost, Callie. Seriously. Anyways, so there's a lot of that in there, and it's mostly that, and so we get like mostly that, and then she's having issues with her family, and her family, for all their intents and purposes, really are all a bunch of jerks. I did not like her family at all. Like, her parents are jerks, her brothers are jerks, she's a jerk to them. It's just like, I don't know. I liked some things, but anyways, we'd have like all that contemporary drama, and then we get like a little bit of info on the Luminant stuff, and then stuff like that, and then we'd go back to the contemporary stuff, so it kept going back and forth like that. It really frustrated me, because, yeah, I'm hoping the second book has more of the fantasy sci-fi elements because of the way this one ended, but I don't know, it's made me less inclined to read those. I hate saying that because I really do want to like this series. I mean, I bought this series brand spanking new, because the publisher shut down, and I wanted to get these books because I thought they sounded really cool, but so far this one's not making very good promises. So yeah, at least for what I like. It's written perfectly well, and I think a lot of people would like this series. I need more than just us making out with a hot ghost, okay? Yeah. So, hopefully the second book's better. Haven't been in the mood to try it yet, which I can see why. So, that's my thoughts on that one. So then the last grouping of books that we have should go very quickly, because I have the remainder of the Thoroughbred series. So yeah, I finished that project. Yay, I mostly DNF'd most of them. But you know, hey, I did read some of them. Anyways, we're just gonna breeze through these because I don't think really anybody cares. I read book 35 and book 65, Dead Heat and Bridal Dreams. I gave both of these 3 stars. These were like favorites when I was younger, but I have discovered like a lot of problems, or at least in the writing development with these and stuff like that. I'm actually planning on making a video of what these books taught me about writing, or like certain things of like what not to put in books and stuff like that. So hopefully I will do that video soon. But yeah, I gave these 2 3 stars. They were okay, but not great. The next book is Cassie's Secret, book 32. I gave this one 2 stars. This is a little too convenient for these kids to figure out what this mystery behind this horse was, and why in the world would a vet give a 12-year-old across the country impertinent information about a famous racehorse's injury over a phone line. That makes no sense. Yeah, there was a lot of conveniences in this story, which I never noticed when I was younger, but I noticed it now. So yeah, didn't really care much for that one. 2 stars. And then we have the 2 I DNF'd, which was book 24, The Horse of Her Dreams, and the special edition, Ashley's Christmas Miracle. I was just bored. I talked about this one, DNFing this one in my vlog. I was going to call my readathon, but I don't have a readathon, my vlog. And this one, I just DNF'd because I just started it, and I just didn't care. It has nothing to do with Christmas either, just so you know. I don't even know why it's called that, but whatever. So yeah, DNF'd those 2. And I am done with that project, and I'm getting rid of all the books, which, if you saw my book on haul, you already know that. So, and then the last set of books I was going through a bunch of things, and I just decided to go through these as well. And these are all my Tangled picture books, basically. So we have this one, which is like a leapfrog edition. The story-wise, this is like the worst adaptation, but I like the different artwork because it's a very different art style than what they usually have in these books and stuff. So it looks like that, basically. So I'm keeping it for the art style because I think it's cute. I gave it 3 stars. If it was just for the story alone and it had like the standard artwork that most of them have, I would have given it 2 stars. But yeah, because it's the very most condensed, chopped down style of the story I've seen yet. So it was that one. Then I read Rapunzel Finds a Friend. This is another picture book. Basically how she and Pascal, the little chameleon, became friends. So yeah, this was just cute. I just really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the pictures. So yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. And then I read Rapunzel's Journal, Letting Down My Hair. This was made for when the movie came out. And this is like basically, it's like a epistolary, is that what they call it? Type story where it's like her journal. She writes it as like her journal entries and stuff like that of like life in the tower and stuff like that. And it's really actually quite fun because it gives like additional information on like Rapunzel's life in the tower with all the artwork and stuff like that. And I just really like it because it's so her. It sounds so much like just her talking that I just really enjoy it. So yeah, I've read this one quite a bit. I gave this one 4 stars. And the last one I read is actually like a double flip type one, so it has 2 stories in one. The first one's Rapunzel and the Golden Rule, which is obviously just that storyline. It has this type of artwork. It's basically her trying to make Eugene and Maximus get along. So yeah, it has that typical thing. I really like the artwork of this one. So yeah, I gave this one, pretty sure I gave this one 3 stars. And then the opposite story is Jasmine and the Two Tigers, so it's an Aladdin story. I don't really care for this one. It's pretty boring. It's pretty just there. If you like Jasmine and Aladdin, you might like it. But I didn't really rate it for that. I rated it for this one. Because if I did rate this one, it'd probably be like 2 stars. Oh no, I forgot a book. Good thing I looked at this. I'm gonna talk about that now. And that is the arc that I got, and that is Trapped by Magic by Nikki Chapelway. This is her newest release. In fact, as I'm filming this, it has been released. It's a beautiful cover. I love this cover, the stained glass like window look. It's really pretty. In this one, where it's set in her Rustazar universe, which also has the books of A Tale of Gods and Glory, Rage Like the Gods, and The Gods Created Monsters set there. So this is set in that same universe, and in this one we follow Bronwyn. She is going to this magical academy, but she's not going necessarily she's going to learn enough magic so that she can help her crime lord father in his business and stuff. She just wants to go there and learn magic and just read all the books and stuff. But the one downside to going there is that she keeps running into basically a bully named Wilder. He is like from a upper family, and he like does magic really well, I think. Actually, that's never brought up. Whatever. He's just an upper classman's type person, but this year she finds something really weird about him. He has been turned into a vampire. And he wasn't a vampire last year. So she's now trying to figure out, why is he a vampire now? What's going on? And he, for the most part, is trying to protect her because she stumbles into something she shouldn't, and he realizes, oh no, this is a bad idea, and he actually kind of like secretly likes her, and that's supposedly why he's been bullying her, which is not a trope I like, but here we are. But yeah, so yeah, they basically then come up with this sort of like fake dating type thing to kind of get her out of trouble, because he like is like, okay, if you keep going down this path, you are going to die, so we're going to do it this way. And so yeah, she agrees, and things explode from there. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It did take me about a good like 20% to really gel with the characters though, mainly because I was trying to figure out where in the timeline this book was set, and it was distracting me. For those of you who are curious, it is set after Rage Like the Gods. So yeah, because they mentioned some things that happened there, and some events that happened at the end of that book in this book. So yeah, once I figured that out, and I sort of gelled with the characters a little better, I really got into it. Yeah, I really liked it. Wilder is kind of a jerk at first, but we do get his point of view in the story too, so when you get his point of view, you realize why he's acting like such a jerk and stuff, so I warmed up to him a little bit more. And I did really like him because he's kind of like that tortured hero aspect. There is one part at the end that I'm very confused about, because in this world, like, using sorcery and using magic are two completely different things. There's a huge explanation behind that, and I think the one character ended up, they had been using magic before, and I think they used sorcery at the end, but that's like a big no-no, because like those are the two things that like you can't cross together, because if you do, you'll go insane. But from the way it was described, I think that's what the character did, but now I'm just confused. I'm like, did they actually do that or not? And if so, does that mean this character's gonna go crazy? Because I really hope not. Yeah, I don't know. That was the only confusing part about the story. Also, the fact that Wilder did bully Bronwyn in their first year of school. It's not really shown in this book. It's just mentioned. And he does kind of act like a jerk towards her, and it was supposedly because he liked her. Yeah, I'm not my favorite trope, but since we get both her points of view, it was easier to see why Wilder did certain things, because we have his point of view as opposed to just hers and we're just guessing. So yeah, I did appreciate that. Really liked it. Really liked the characters. There's a lot of world building in this world that she often goes over quite a bit, so there is a bit of that in the very beginning, but I still really enjoyed this book. And the cover is really, really pretty. So yeah, I gave this book 4 stars. That is it. Those are all the books I read in May. That was quite a bit of them. Sorry if I stumbled and fumbled over a bunch of them. Like I said, it's the end of June. So like, I haven't read these books in a while, but I will get the June reading wrap-up out earlier than this one because I'm not doing this again. That is that. Those are all the books I read in May. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave a comment down below. I love to hear from you guys. And yeah, I will see you next time. Bye!